Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the engineering program overview session. My name is Gail Ermer, and I am honored to be serving currently as the chair of the engineering department, and I also teach in the mechanical engineering concentration. David Wonder, another faculty member who teaches in the civil engineering concentration, is going to also be speaking with me later on. And before we get started with our official business, I would like to take a brief moment to open in prayer. Gracious God, we just take a quick moment at the beginning of this session to acknowledge that you are Lord of creation, you are Lord of technology, and you're Lord of all of our work here at Calvin and elsewhere. And we just ask your blessing on this time together as we share information, as the folks in this room prepare to make big decisions. We ask for your Holy Spirit's guidance, that we may follow your will in everything we do, through the power of Christ our Savior. Amen. All right, so as the last few of you file in, there's plenty of room up here in the front as well. I wanted to give a quick overview of the schedule. So this is also in your programs. Hopefully it's consistent with what's up here on this slide. But we're right now in the 10:30 session, which is the engineering program overview. After this session, there are a couple of different options at 11:30. So students at 11:30 will have the opportunity to attend a variety of different engineering classes, and we'll dismiss you with guides to send you off to those in a bit. Parents, you can go to the financial aid session or the other sessions that are marked in your program. And for those of you who are thinking also about combining some interest in computer science or physics, there's also some other activities in your program. If you're interested in those, you can head back out to the lobby and get connected with people who can get you where you need to go. Following that hour, we'll all be gathering back together at 12:30 for lunch in the Prince Conference Center Grade Hall. And we'll have faculty and students there. We'll be sitting around tables. You'll have an opportunity to interact with them. After that, we have our panel session where we'll have students and alumni available to answer your questions. And then after that, we'll have guides to help you over to the engineering building where you'll eventually be able to talk to some of the senior design teams who are doing their work out there. So that's kind of the plan for the day. After 3:30, you'll be off to do other things that you might be interested in that are also listed in your program. So this presentation today is not just a sales pitch for the Calvin Engineering program, although obviously I'm pretty committed to this program and think it's great and would like to see you all participate. This is really more about giving you the information that you need to make a good choice about your future, to where God's calling you to go to use your gifts, whether that's in engineering. So we're going to talk a little bit about what engineering is, because there may be some of you out there who just aren't sure yet. It's not an easy thing to figure out. And then to talk about Calvin's program and what we offer, particularly that makes us distinctive from some other programs out there. So I'll introduce you to our faculty. I will talk about our mission and our particular distinctives that inform how our curriculum is structured and some of the opportunities that are available. And then I'll finish, of course, with a few marks of excellence. So there's the part where I get to kind of the sales pitch, or perhaps Professor Wonder will at that point. And then we'll have some time for questions. So ideally, we would finish up by the 11:15 so that we have enough time to break up and get to our next activity. So the question, what is engineering? I don't know if you've formed ideas in your mind already about that. Most folks, or at least when I was a high school student thinking about a career, associate engineering with math and science. So at some point I met with a career counselor who said, oh, you like math, you like science, you're good at math, you're good at science. How about engineering? Seems like a good way to apply that. So engineering certainly involves, as a foundation, math, physics, chemistry, to do our modeling. But I think we believe it's much more than that, right? So the scientists are often involved in primarily understanding what is. Engineers are usually focused on what isn't yet, in solving problems that were presented using technology. And so we'll add some bubbles to this picture if you're trying to think about what engineering is all about. Besides just the physics, chemistry, and biology, you'll also have to think about material science, since we build stuff made out of things or materials that we need to understand. It also creeps into biology more and more. So engineering isn't just about physical stuff, it's about biological stuff. Computer science is important. And also, all of that informs a problem-solving approach. But even that's not enough to sort of encompass what engineering involves. Most folks will go do engineering in the context of an NGO or a government agency or an industry or a company that's a profit-making business. And so understanding business and economics is important. Doing project management is hugely important, since most of the large engineering projects are done in teams with multiple people, and you need to stay on schedule and stay on budget, all those kinds of things. Communication is key. So what we continually hear from employers is that they want not just engineers who have technical skills, but who can also sell themselves and their ideas, and can write succinctly and give good instructions to people, and can work well with people. And also, it's a creative thing. Maybe that's not the first thing you think of when you think engineering. Ooh, creativity. But it really is. We need to solve problems that are open-ended, that haven't been solved before. Think out of the box sometimes. And so I would encourage those of you who are interested in that aspect of things to stick with engineering, even sometimes when it seems like it's all about just the math and the science. And then finally, particularly at Calvin, I would say we think that worldview is a huge piece of this. So what problems are important enough to solve? What are the kind of values that you bring when you solve those problems? How do you integrate technology with people issues, right, that are very important? And we might have particular reasons as Christians for wanting to address some problems some way and as opposed to other ways. So that's all integrated into this idea of doing engineering. And engineers go off and do a wide variety of things, and we think that our program equips them at a foundational level to do all those different things, whether it's working at a high-tech startup company on the cutting edge of technology on some new thing that's really going to improve the world, or whether it's working at a large corporation who's mass-producing things that we need to use every day, or whether it's working in government in an agency that's trying to keep our infrastructure up to date and maintained, or whether it's working for an NGO that's doing specifically service work in global contexts of places that need to be developed. We think our curriculum supports all those different career paths that could be explored by engineers. So just a minute to introduce our faculty. So as a program, I think we are one of the largest engineering programs offered at a liberal arts college, similar to Calvin. So we have, well, we had approximately 160 entering students in the class of this fall. And last year we graduated about 100 students in that senior class. And we have 15 regular faculty members who teach within the department within our different specializations. So you see in the red, the mechanical engineering faculty, in the green, civil and environmental, in the yellow, our electrical and computer, and then in the green on my side, our chemical engineering faculty. So these folks bring a wide variety of experiences into the classroom and into their interactions with students. So some of them have lots of academic experience, some of them have lots of professional experience, some of them have significant leadership experience. We think it's that variety of folks that you'll be able to interact with as part of the program that bring distinction to the program, and that will give you sort of the best training to go out into the world and pursue engineering as a calling. We also have a number of adjunct faculty who have certain specialties that teach particular courses for us part-time. And this is just a sort of representative example. We have a few more of those as well. But they also bring their own special flavor to the courses they teach, since they're not based necessarily full-time in an academic career. So that brings me to talking a little bit about our mission and our distinctives. So I'm sure you heard already this morning that Calvin's mission is that we want students to be able to think deeply, act justly, and live wholeheartedly as Christ agents of renewal in the world, right? You heard that? So our way of living that out is that our calling as an engineering program is to equip students to glorify God by meeting the needs of the world with responsible and caring engineering. So we want our engineers to be thinking deeply about the world's problems, to be acting justly as they go out and apply technological solutions, and to be living wholeheartedly in this cool career that we think is engineering. And in our program to support that, we have identified 7 different distinctives, we call them. So they are, as on this list, Christian, interdisciplinary, student-focused, practical, sustainable, global, and innovative. And so what I'd like to do for the next few minutes is just to go through each of those in turn and talk a little bit more about them. I'm going to delay the global one so that Professor Wunder can address that one in more detail. So first of all, it is a Christian program. And that doesn't mean we have a specific course that's Christian engineering. It means that we infuse our Christian worldviews throughout the program. So all of the faculty who teach in the program are Christians, and we all buy into Calvin's sort of reformed approach to Christianity, which we think is very important to engineering because it says that your Christian faith impacts every area that you are involved in, including your occupation and your career and your work. So we're thinking about that in every one of our classes, maybe more so in some classes than others, right? Because if you're solving equations, sometimes your Christian perspective doesn't seem to directly impact that. But as soon as you pull back and think about context and your work and design and creativity, I think worldview becomes very important. And you see here a picture of some students who, in particular, because of their Christian perspective, chose a design project that was to design a device for somebody with a handicap or a series of handicaps to make him more mobile and able to get out and enjoy the world better. So the Christian faith impacts the kind of projects we might choose to work on, the way we teach our classes, the way we interact with students. We all think that our Christian faith should be helping us to be well, to support truth and justice, but also mercy and love. So when we deal with students, we try to do that as well. Second, our distinctive of interdisciplinary informs our curriculum. If you've looked at any of our documentation, you probably already know that we offer a Bachelor of Science in Engineering degree with different concentrations. So we've chosen to take that interdisciplinary approach because we think that most engineering problems span multiple disciplines, and because engineers will be working in teams with other folks from other disciplines, they should be exposed to those disciplines, understand some of the language that's spoken in those disciplines. So we have kind of an approach where we have a foundation of multiple engineering disciplines, as well as significant integration with the liberal arts. So Calvin is mostly known, right, as a liberal arts college. And we think our program rests on the shoulders of that excellent liberal arts experience. Again, employers often say we want people not just with technical skills who can hit the ground running, we want people who can be leaders, who can move people, who can communicate well, who are more than just engineers. At Calvin, we're educating folks not just for a career, but for a life of service in many different dimensions. So the liberal arts helps with that and also helps to make folks better engineers, we believe. And that undergirds then our curricular structure. So the first 2 years of the program are mostly common, so that you don't have to decide on a particular discipline. We'll do some things in our early courses to sort of help you get more of a flavor about what engineering work is like and what kinds of areas of engineering you're interested in. So you'll take Engineering Intro to Design, other fundamental 200-level courses that give you a foundation in all the different disciplines, along with your liberal arts or general education requirements that you can take during that time. And then once you've gotten close to the end of those first 2 years, you will actually apply for admission to the program in one of the concentrations. And you can see here the 4 that we offer. They're sort of the foundational or largest concentrations of engineering that are typically offered nationally. So chemical engineering, civil and environmental engineering combined as a concentration, electrical computer engineering, and then also mechanical engineering. So you'll specialize more in your 3rd and 4th years, although you'll still also be taking liberal arts education, and at the very end, for the capstone design project, you'll be coming together with all of the students in all of the concentrations with the opportunity to form teams that have folks from different areas. So if you do have a problem that's interdisciplinary, you can set up your team to address that as well. The next distinctive that shows up here is student-focused, and you can read the description there. But we are an undergraduate-only engineering institution, so the folks who are teaching here really want to be there teaching undergraduates, not doing research with graduate students and so on. We have relatively small class sizes, so for your lower-level courses, we're probably talking 20 to maybe 45 students. And for the upper level courses, anywhere between 10 and 35 students, say. So we don't have large sections. It's the faculty that do all of the regular teaching. We don't have teaching assistants at Calvin, although we do sometimes hire students to do grading and lab assisting. So if you're interested in those kind of opportunities, once you're a student here, we encourage you to pursue them. But our faculty are available to students. When you take the tour later, you'll see that faculty offices are right on the main hallways where students head to classes and so on. So all you need to do is knock on a door, look at a schedule to talk to a faculty member if you need to ask questions or explore ideas. This picture happens to be a Bible study that's taking place in one of the faculty members' homes. So we do have a common college Bible study that there are different sections of, and engineers have an opportunity to participate in those things as well. And then the fourth distinctive is practical. So I've referred to this a little bit already, but we try to infuse our classrooms with real-world engineering experience. So part of that is by who our faculty are, right? If they have experience in industry, they will bring that into the classroom. It also has to do with how we set up our courses to include design experiences that are open-ended and involve teams. So we try to get students to practice that already as part of their engineering education so that they'll be really good at it by the time they get out to go to work. And then also we have an emphasis on internships for students. So we don't have a requirement to do an internship as part of the program, but we do have strong encouragement for students, especially in the summer between their junior and senior year, to go out and get an internship experience. And there are a wide variety of those, and we have support within our department to help students find those, as well as through the Career Center on campus. So here are some of the things in particular that we do to help students be prepared for a career once they're done with their experience at Calvin. So we have a mentor program as part of the first semester course that students do, where we match up groups of 3 or 4 students and send them out to visit alumni and other engineers in local industries. So you can at least have the opportunity to talk to one person who's a real-life engineer and get their perspective and see if that matches what you are interested in. We have a required seminar program. So we bring folks onto campus who are doing real-life engineering work, and they talk about it, and students have the opportunity to interact with them. We have the internship program that I was just mentioning. We also have research opportunities in the summer for students to work with particular faculty who are doing projects. We, through the Career Center, also have on-campus interviews. We have our own job fair, and we have mechanisms for sending folks to job fairs all over the West Michigan region. Now we're up to number 5. So sustainable. The program itself is infused with this idea that we are stewards of the resources that God has given us, and we should be thinking about ways to preserve creation and to use them well for the flourishing of humans into the future. So thinking not just about now, but about later. And as an illustration of our commitment to that, we even have the opportunity for students to get a sustainability designation on the degree. So this is an optional program that students can choose where they take a 1-credit sustainability challenges course, they take a 1-credit sustainability analysis course, and then if they choose a sustainability-themed elective, which overlaps with some of the other categories of required courses, and finally a sustainability-related experience like an internship, senior design project, or research experience, they can have this designated on their transcript. And we've found that employers are quite impressed by that because many employers are also looking for folks who are considering sustainability to hire. And then I'm going to jump to number 7 quick because, like I said, we're going to jump back to global, and I'll let Professor Wunder address that. But we also think that engineers are involved in sort of an entrepreneurial spirit or mindset, even if they're not maybe opening their own businesses and so on. So we think leadership, understanding the business context, being creative and market-driven is all an important part of the engineering experience, and we have some of those kinds of things integrated into the program as well. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Professor Wunder.
Thanks, Gail. So I get to tell the story about how the engineering department and its students are involved globally as students and what happens after they graduate as they move into different places of the world. So the distinctive that I get to share about is being global as a department. We are keenly interested in getting our students involved with the international marketplace, and that could be with for-profit industries in the U.S., overseas, but also nonprofit and non-governmental organizations that are doing work overseas that rely on engineers. We have a number of programs where our students can be involved internationally. The first program, not just in the presentation, but also really in the sequence of the program for engineering, is our summer program in Germany. This is where students take an engineering course, Engineering 202, Statics and Dynamics. It's a required course as part of our curriculum, along with a German language and culture course. These courses are taken during the summer for 5 weeks in Berlin, Germany, on the campus of TU Berlin, Technical University of Berlin. The engineering course is taught by Calvin faculty. The German language and culture course is taught by faculty from the TU Berlin. We actually have a week ahead of that here on campus to hit the ground running. It's an intense course, 4 days a week in class, and then weekends for excursions to different parts of Germany. So it's an amazing opportunity for students to learn engineering in Berlin, Germany, learn about German language and culture, and really be exposed to an amazing part of the world in Germany. It's typically for students after their first or second year, and the cost is roughly $6,000. The next part of our international offering within the engineering program are international interims. The interims are courses we teach during the January session. Some schools call it the J-term. We call it the interim. It's an intensive single course experience. Courses are taught on campus, but these courses that are being highlighted in the presentation are off-campus programs, and these are just representative. We actually have 3 or 4 others that we routinely teach or have taught in the recent past, but I'll give you a little bit of a snapshot of each of these with subsequent slides. First of all, China Business and Engineering. This course focuses on business, engineering, culture, religion, and food in China. It travels to numerous cities, including Shanghai, Beijing, Hangzhou, and it's a great experience for students to really see how engineering is done and business is done in the Chinese context, in the Asian context. Amazing opportunity to be exposed to practices there. In the same neck of the woods, but with a different focus, is engaging development in Cambodia. So it's fair to say that all of these off-campus interim trips that we offer are fundamentally focused on culture and technology. And culture and technology can look very different depending on the level of development in the world. In a place like Cambodia, the level of development is a little different than a place like China, or most places in China. And so the focus here is on appropriate technology, on simple solutions focused around community development, water systems, agriculture. It's a great opportunity for our students to see what is becoming a phrase, the majority world, how a majority of the world really faces life, and how engineering can play a significant and critical and beneficial role. Similar focus, but mostly on water, is a trip to Ethiopia. This is focused on water and culture in Ethiopia. This is a trip I've led actually in the past. We spend time in the north of Ethiopia with a 2,000-year-old Ethiopian Christian church. That's a church body, not a single church building. And then in the south with a newer Christian movement, evangelical movement with a really large denomination in the south, all focused on water and culture and the variations in landscapes and practices there. Another interim that we offer is business and engineering in the context of European culture. This travels to 7 countries, again focused on culture, technology, business, history, religious sites. Actually get to visit the church in Wittenberg where the 95 Theses were nailed to the door by Luther. We just finished Reformation Day a few days ago. Just a shout out to that part of our history. Amazing course, really a great opportunity to see a huge swath of practices across the European landscape. Dutch Landscapes, as the name implies, is in the Netherlands. This course focuses on infrastructure, the environment, and culture. The Netherlands have an amazing history of almost literally fighting with water and land and making it not just habitable, but a place to thrive. And so this course focuses on infrastructure, culture, the environment, and how the Dutch society has done truly amazing things to thrive within a pretty harsh landscape in terms of the way water and land presents challenges. We also, as part of our internship program, and this is actually quite unique among engineering programs in terms of our runtime, our success, and that it's proven. We have international internship opportunities for our students. And you'll see just with this list, there are a number of international, multinational companies in Europe, but also in Asia, and also opportunities in South America and Africa with non-governmental agencies that are focused on the more the community development, appropriate technology side of things. Hopefully what you're seeing with this discussion around our global emphasis is that we take very seriously God's call on our lives, and we want our students to be equipped to be responsive to God's call in their lives. And that might be downtown Grand Rapids doing amazing engineering work for a company or for a municipality, or it could be in Nairobi, Kenya, doing similarly amazing work for communities in that region of the world. We do have other international opportunities that aren't as formal as those that I've just mentioned. We routinely have senior design teams travel overseas as part of their senior design project, usually 1 or 2 a year, give or take. We have senior design teams partnered with folks overseas, and often they do travel and interact with their clients and the communities that they're serving. We have a student organization called Engineering Unlimited that is doing community development, water-related work now in Ecuador, historically in Peru. Those trips typically occur at the beginning of the summer and usually include 4 to 5 to 6 students and a couple professors. We do have students routinely, but rarely, if I can say that, are able to fit in a semester abroad program. These are students that typically have sharp interest in foreign language and often come in with AP credit or some kind of equivalency with courses, and they find room and they creatively and intently find a way to fit in a semester of the program. Our engineering program, and I'm going to refer to this in just a minute, is very tight. It's very challenging, very difficult, and so students that are able to fit in a semester abroad are really commendable, and they have amazing experiences. Because we want to acknowledge students that are committed to this kind of effort in our program, and frankly because it's a marker of distinction for our students as they graduate, we do have an international designation, and it's similar to the sustainability designation. This is where students that have been involved with 2 out of the 3 of the programs we've mentioned, or an equivalent thereof, do receive an international designation for their efforts as students. So I get to summarize, and I get to summarize by talking about our marks of distinction and excellence. So it's really a fun story for me to continue to tell. We focus on problem solving to develop products, infrastructure, systems that serve society. We sometimes will say that nurses, and I'm not picking on nurses, I'm actually highlighting the value of nurses. I sometimes say that nurses don't have the corner on being a caring profession. We like to encourage our students to really think about engineering as a service, as a way to care for people and for creation. I think you've heard Gail mention this, and maybe earlier. We take very seriously the idea that engineering is service, but also that a call to the engineering profession in response to God's call in our life couldn't be more critical, couldn't be more important, And it's something that we, like I said, take seriously and encourage our students also to take seriously. Engineering is hard work. I've sometimes shared the story that 2 minutes before my dad drove away my freshman year in college, and I'm going to edit this, he said, "David, don't forget that really bright students have to work their tails off in engineering." And it scared me because I wasn't one of the brightest students, first of all, but he was right. All of my classmates, bright, less bright, had to work their tails off in engineering. But the wonderful thing about that is that it prepares us for great work that's satisfying and rewarding. The combination of hard work that God's called us to in service to society is an amazing combination and an amazing calling. Some quick marks of program excellence. We have great relationships with local industry and companies and municipalities and agencies with our graduates. Employers like Calvin grads, and that's certainly true locally. We have great connections and networks with national and international companies, as with the examples given on the right side of the screen. These are just a list. This is a small list, a representative list of a long, long list of local and national and international companies that our graduates work for. We also place our students quite well, and it's a testament to the students as much as the program to the top grad schools in the country. And by saying that, I'm going to say it, they're some of the top graduate programs in the world. So I won't go down the list. This is, again, just a representative list. It's not meant as a ranking, in case there are alumni of any of these institutions or those institutions that aren't listed. But the idea here is just for you to see that our Calvin engineering grads do extremely well and are desirable from graduate programs. So, in summary, marks program excellent placement in industry, grad school acceptance at top schools. A number of programs emphasize student competitions. They actually have student organizations that are focused on particular student competitions that happen annually and year-round, for that matter. That's not an intentional part of our program, but we do have students routinely compete in national and international competitions, and almost categorically, they do extremely well. So even though it's not an emphasis of the program, it is a mark of distinction that our students who do compete against other students from programs across the country and world do quite well. Finally, we offer internships like Professor Ermer mentioned and I mentioned with the international opportunities. And I want to say this, that the international opportunities we give our students are truly differential. It is really hard for an engineering student in most programs across the country to have bona fide international opportunities. And what our students are allowed and afforded to do is really differential. Not just in terms of the way that they develop as students and as people, but in how they see the world and in how they're viewed by employers and grad schools and thereon. With that, we will move to questions, and I'll invite Professor Ermer back on the stage, and we'll be glad to take any question you might have.
We can wait.
This is like being in class with students. We can wait. They can be practical questions. They can be sort of philosophical. Yeah, go ahead.
What percentage of graduates get jobs within the first 6 months or within the first 6 months?
You want to repeat the question?
Sure. Yeah, the question was what percentage of graduates are employed within, say, the first 6 months after they graduate? Yeah, I was just looking through data from the class of 2017, and it's been typical for maybe 70% of our graduates to have an offer prior to graduation, and then we check back again in 6 months, and that placement rate is usually well above 90%. So I still have maybe 15 students I haven't contacted from the class of 2017 yet, but all the rest of them are either employed or in grad school. And maybe between 10 and 15% of them will go on to grad school as opposed to getting a job right out of school.
So sometimes our students aren't looking for work after they graduate too. So they're moving on to something else, but it's a nice percentage. Other questions? Yeah.
Having been through a program where engineering was supposed to be 4 years, how many students go through in 4 years?
Yeah, so I'll repeat the question and then I'll let Professor Irmer answer it. The question is what percentage of our students actually get through the program in 4 years? We've presented a 4-year program, and I've mentioned and Professor Irmer's mentioned that it's a tight, challenging program. So,
yeah, the data say about 85% of students will graduate in 4 years. And I would say the primary reasons for those other 15% not necessarily doing that are that, number one, they wanted to do something else too. So they added a minor or some other experiences that extended their program. Or there was a setback along the way. Our program is very tight, so if you don't pass a particular class, there's not a lot of space to make it up. So I would say those are usually the two categories of students who don't graduate in 4 years. We make pretty much a commitment that we'll make sure you get the classes you need to graduate in 4 years. So we don't ever have the case where it's like, sorry, this semester you can't have that class because it's closed.
yeah, so the question was what percentage of students that apply to Calvin are admitted in the engineering program? We actually, at the freshman level, don't have a minimum requirement for students. So we have, like Professor Irmer mentioned, we have about 160 students that start as, give or take, that start as first-year students. We graduate 90 to 100, maybe last year I think it was a little over that. And so along the way, they apply to the program after the fourth or during the 4th semester, and I don't know if we have a percentage that aren't admitted at that point, but it's not a number I've ever really thought about.
Right. So it's not competitive to get into the engineering program. As long as you meet the minimum requirements, it's like a 2.3 GPA, and having taken all the classes in the first 2 years with a grade of C- or better, you're in, essentially.
If your student doesn't know what branch of engineering she wants to go into, any suggestions on how to narrow that focus down?
Yeah, so the question is if a student is unsure about which of the 4 concentrations to commit to after that 4th semester, how do we handle that? What do we do? I just tell them to go civil environmental, but that's not our, no, I'm joking.
Yeah, and I, of course, tell them to go mechanical, so. Actually, the curriculum is a little bit designed to help with that somewhat, right? So the Engineering 101 class in the fall of the first semester, or fall of the first year, has aspects to it that force students to go out and do some research about different types of engineering careers, what the different disciplines are about. The mentor visit is a piece of that. And then within the first 2 years curriculum, some of the 200 level courses are kind of representative of at least the kind of work that might be involved in some of the different careers. So for example, Engineering 202, Statics and Dynamics is something that's sort of key for civil and mechanical engineers. So if you gravitate toward that kind of work, that's one more clue that might tell you which direction to go. We do have alumni in the area that are perfectly willing to host students. So if any student is ever interested in saying, I want to know what that job is like, talk to us, and we'll be happy to set up something. That's usually the engineering educational experience, in my judgment, is not. It doesn't match perfectly the type of work that engineers do, right? It's fundamental preparation. And so often, say, in the second year, a student will go, but I'm taking physics and math, and I'm not sure I want to do this for the rest of my life. And we have to provide ways to say, no, that's not what you will do as an engineer in your job every day. So go out there and find some engineers and talk to them. There's a huge range of career opportunities. So sometimes you have to get out of the educational environment, and we'll do whatever we can to support that.
Well, one thing that's nice about our program, too, that's different from most, is that our students have a couple years to be exposed to the different areas and to really think wisely about which direction of engineering they're headed. Most programs are expecting a commitment within about a year, based on my understanding. Other questions?
What is the difference between chemical engineering or having a major in chemistry?
Okay. The question is, what's the difference between chemical engineering, majoring in chemical engineering, and majoring in chemistry, and maybe in practice what that is too? I'll take this. Sure. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So chemistry focuses on what happens with the building blocks of nature, whether they're man-made or natural, in understanding how things move from A to B in terms of reactions and energy. So understanding how it works. Chemical engineering takes that and actually produces something beneficial. So it's part of, and I'm oversimplifying, and I'm looking around to see if there are any folks that can help with this. Chemical engineering builds on fundamental chemistry principles and processes, and scales up those processes in terms of beneficial application for plastics, pharmaceuticals, food industry, agriculture. So one is more about understanding the science. Chemistry and chemical engineering is more about harnessing that and producing something.
Yeah, and maybe if I could add to that,
Yeah.
from a curriculum perspective, the chemistry major would be somewhat more narrow in the sense that our chemical engineering students are going to have to take statics and dynamics and electronics and all the rest of the engineering curriculum. So if all you're really interested in is chemistry, then maybe taking that direction would match your interest better. But if you choose the engineering route, it will be somewhat more broad. I have that question often with computer science versus electrical and computer engineering. It's the same way. So for the engineering program, you're going to have to pull back and look at all the other areas. But in your specific scientific discipline, you might not have to as much. And actually, we are at 11:15, so we might want to call it with questions at this point. You'll have opportunities at lunch and so on to interact with faculty. The next thing in the program here is to split up with students primarily going off to different courses and parents going off to other things. So to facilitate this, I think there's 5 different class options that you can choose. Oh, gracious, can you read that? Because there's no way.
So Ned Nielsen is raising the piece of paper there. He's actually going to take students to a course that he's teaching, and this is a sophomore level 202 class. This is the class he teaches in Berlin. You get it in Grand Rapids today, and so that would be that we have actually quite a bit of room in that class. So that would be a good class for folks that maybe aren't sure about a concentration. And might want to have a look at what a second-year course in engineering would look like. So Ned's over in that corner. Randy Brower is holding up his card there. Randy is going to deliver students to an upper-level electrical computer engineering course. And so if you're interested in that area, find Randy. Len DeRoy in this upper right corner, my upper right, your left corner, is delivering folks to a chemical engineering course. So if you're interested in chemical engineering, follow Len. Professor Ermer, right here, and she'll stay right here, will be delivering students to an upper-level mechanical engineering course. And then I'll just stand here in the center of the stage. I'm going to take students to a junior-level civil environmental course. Okay, so electrical? 19 students with Professor Brower. Professor Nielsen can take almost 30, is that right? 32. And that's the junior, the second year statics and dynamics course that all of our students take. Professor DeRoy, chemical engineering, how many do you have? 10. He's got room for 10. And then Professor Irmer, upper level mechanical.
I have room for 11.
Room for 11. And I'm upper level civil environmental, and I have room for about 12.
And the rest of you can head out to the CFAC lobby and head off to your next event.